You guys all set? All righty. Thanks for coming in. We thought we'd talk a little bit more in detail today about one of our special session pieces of legislation. We've hinted at this a little bit a week or so ago at an economic summit, but today I wanted to talk in greater specificity in terms of what we're proposing to take the place of the State Department of Commerce. It really is built off of a plan that was announced earlier this year from the Competitive Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Economic Development Association, Wisconsin County Association, and others funded a study. Out of that study, they created what was called Be Bold Wisconsin. Had a series of proposals, one of which was about transforming the Department of Commerce. We looked at that. We looked at what other states like Indiana and others have done across the country and really tried to take the best out of all of those and to modify it in a way that we thought would work best here in the state of Wisconsin. So what we're proposing is to replace the current Department of Commerce with a new Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation with its sole focus of creating and promoting commerce here in the state of Wisconsin, helping existing companies retain and grow jobs here, as well as attracting employers from outside of our borders to create more jobs here in the state of Wisconsin. That obviously is a priority for me and for this administration, something we're going to stay focused in on like a laser beam, and this helps us become more nimble and more effective in doing that. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the specifics. What this would do is the special session bill would create the framework, and the budget would complete the transformation of that. In this framework, we would set up a new board to govern this new Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. It would be a 12-member board chaired by the governor of the state of Wisconsin, and then 11 other members appointed by the governor with confirmation required by the state Senate. Those terms would be open-ended, serving at the pleasure of the governor, as is the case in many other commissions and appointments made by the governor. That entity would then have authority over helping set the strategic plan, the guidelines, the overview of the policies of the new Economic Development Corporation. The president and CEO of that organization would be appointed by the governor, would also serve as my first appointment will be made this coming week as the Secretary of Commerce. That person would have the dual role as the Secretary of Commerce and then leading into the CEO of this new Economic Development Corporation. Again, that would be carrying out those duties. In addition to setting up those parameters, right now the Department of Commerce, in addition to programs and services it provides that provide for promoting economic development, the Department of Commerce over the years has also taken on other responsibilities in terms of regulating commerce. Those will be completely removed and put into other state agencies, so that this new Economic Development Corporation's sole focus will be on promoting commerce, not on regulating it, not on confusing it, not involved with anything else. Again, with this being a public-private entity through this framework, we believe this gives us the most effective way to aggressively promote economic development in the state, starting first and foremost with our current employers and how we help them grow, as well as seeking to attract other employers from outside of our state's borders right now. All those, again, key to reaching our overall goal of creating 250,000 new jobs in the private sector by 2015, and sending a very clear message that Wisconsin is open for business. A couple of quick things of note. This would be, and modifications we made to some of the other proposals out there. This entity would still be, this new corporation would still, its members, its staff would still be under the same stipulations in terms of following ethics rules, just like I and others in state government do, as well as it would be under the same guidelines when it comes to open meetings and open records, so that there'll be full disclosure, full transparency in terms of the workings of this Economic Development Corporation. And I think that's something that's important to the public and certainly is important to me as well. But our bottom line is we want to have great success in terms of growing the number of jobs that we have in the state, and we think this is one of the most effective ways to do that, and obviously fits in well with the rest of our special session agenda when it comes to the regulatory reforms we talked about, making health care more affordable with the repeal of the state tax and health savings accounts, and the announcements we'll soon be making in terms of this tax cut for small businesses, and the litigation reform we'll be announcing shortly as well. With that, take any questions.
Why take this step with doing a public-private entity? Why not stick with the Department of Commerce as a public agency?
Well, in our case, what we've heard repeatedly, a couple different things. One is I heard from a lot of businesses, particularly small businesses, the frustration that the same entity that's supposed to be promoting commerce is also involved in regulating it. Separating that off, I think, is very effective. To have a separate state agency involved with regulations, licensing, safety procedures, allow them to do that, and have the entity that's about commerce just be about promoting it. The other part is, again, trying to do things as quickly as possible. Again, having this public-private partnership gives us, again, one more tool in being a little bit quicker to respond, a little bit more nimble, a little bit more effective, all of which are important signals to job creators, both those within the state and those we might want to attract to the state.
You mentioned some of those regulating duties would be off-put to other agencies. Do you have any sense on how that would be divvied up among the other state agencies?
Well, we're looking at right now is and we haven't come up with the right name yet, but in the state budget we'll probably be creating a new agency out of what now is largely the Department of Regulation and Licensing. It's most likely that that's where the majority, if not all, those other entities would go into. They're already in an area where that's what they do. We just transformed the name so it was focused more on serving professionals and professional organizations than just on regulating things. Now, throughout our other process, the administrative rules and otherwise, we may come forward with other streamlining in terms of the regulatory process itself. But in the terms of this transfer, we're just taking those things that had been in the Department of Commerce that deal with regulations, putting them over outside of this new Economic Development Corporation and other state agencies to try and separate the two out.
Any sense of a cost versus a cost savings by implementing a new public-private entity?
No, I think in this case it's probably essentially you're looking at cost neutral. I mean, you're doing the same functions. If anything, there might be some efficiencies, but I don't think you're talking about. I mean, we're certainly not doing it to save money. If that's a side benefit of that, that's certainly a good thing. But I think in terms of things that are important in terms of promoting commerce, we're going to be doing in this Economic Development Corporation. We'll just hopefully be able to do it more efficiently.
You mentioned you had special session proposals. Now, so it would be up to the legislature to recommend, to implement?
That's exactly right. The state legislature, as part of the special session I'll call starting next Monday, we'll have to bring this item up and the other items we'll be talking about up. And essentially these are things that require a change in the state statutes, and we have these measures drafted and ready to go with each respective house.
So this is right after inauguration then?
Mm-hmm. Exactly right.
How would this agency have handled things differently with Mercury Marine or Harley Davidson from what the Department of Commerce did?
Well, it's one of those where in some cases they can get involved sooner. It might even be on a long-term basis. I think there's a potential for greater active interest in private funds being incorporated into public funds that would be a part of this new Economic Development Corporation. The example we've seen in other parts of the state is we have 7 major regional economic development efforts, the oldest being the New North, but you've got Momentum West, you've got M7, for example, in the Milwaukee area where I came from, where you had public dollars, but you also had a significant investment of private sector dollars to help the overall regional efforts. I think those dollars would be much more inclined to be invested in matching state dollars through an economic development corporation, again, where they could see a greater bang for their buck.
So would you're thinking that the state would have had to spend less?
Potentially, yeah, and it's one of those where it's, I don't know if it's so much about those particular projects, but about the hundreds of others out there that don't make the news because they're projects that are ideas but don't go very far, where they could respond to those more quickly.
How does this differ from Forward Wisconsin? This idea of a public-private partnership is something that started
it's
in
very,
the 80s.
yeah, it's very much like Forward Wisconsin. The difference being is you had the Department of Commerce and you had Forward separately. And then years ago, the governor dissolved Forward Wisconsin, put that money, roughly $700,000, into $100,000 each for the Regional Economic Development Corporation, or Regional Economic Development efforts, I should say. In this case, you're not having 2 separate entities. You're really essentially having one together. So it's kind of taking the best of what Commerce has done before and for Wisconsin's done, and putting it in the one spot.
Can you boil this down to like 2 sentences and say this board, this 12-member board meets and they do what? They come up with a marketing plan that will be unified across the state. They come up with incentive plans.
Yeah, their bottom line is they're charged with saying, here's how much the state's got on the table. Here's how much potentially is coming from the private sector. We need a long-term strategic plan, or not even long-term. We need a strategic plan over the next couple of years about how to maximize those dollars to attract the most jobs possible. And simply put, that's what it is. To both attract and to retain, because it would also include keeping jobs here and growing them as well as attracting new ones, either from within the state employers or from elsewhere.
You talk about separating those who make the regulations versus enforcing that,
Yep.
enforcing versus attracting, but wouldn't some small businesses that's starting up find it to their advantage to talk to someone about how to start up and then get the same answers on what regulations rather than calling 2 different departments?
Well, but the key is right now, even with Commerce, oftentimes you don't have the same thing. You have, when we look at the list of, for example, where to put these stipulations, you literally have regulations in Commerce, you have them in reg and licensing, you have them in the DNR, you have them in the Department of Transportation, you have them in the Department of Health Services, you have them in the Department of Children, Families, you even have them in the Department of Administration. So right now there are regulations all over, not necessarily all for the same employer, but you have them all over the place. And so what our focus would be here is to help promote Commerce. We may still choose to have, as part of this Economic Development Corporation, advocates or ombudsmen. I prefer to call them advocates, particularly for small businesses, to say, we will help you. If you want to add jobs here, we'll help you walk through this process and effectively get through the red tape. And that's something where this new corporation would be working directly with our Department of Administration to make that possible. But really, to me, there's 2 separate issues. We need overall to send a clear message that Wisconsin's open for business. We need to make it easier, no matter what agency does these regulations, to get through the red tape. And then at the same time, we need to have a body that says, here's what we can do to help you create jobs. And essentially, I look at this and think about the small town I grew up, but it could be a small town, a big town, anywhere in between. Think about this corporation kind of like being the local Chamber of Commerce. We need to have an entity that's about promoting Wisconsin, promoting jobs, telling the world and everybody here in the state that we're open for business and what we can do to help make that possible. We don't fully have that right now, have an agency that's just focused on doing that, and essentially this becomes the state's equivalent of a Chamber of Commerce in a given community.
Scott, one of the things critics have said is that, we already have people in the Department of Commerce that are focused on economic development. You can take away the regulatory people if you want, but you're still stuck with the same people you got in the same building. How are they going to be more effective than the people under the new restructure than they are now?
Yeah. Well, again, a couple things. We're going to change this, and so there's going to be a chance to put, by going from the current bureaucracy there to this new Economic Development Corporation staff. I mean, they're even giving the new secretary and CO the opportunity to keep the same staff if they see fit, or to hire new staff, depending on the positions. Again, to put the best and the brightest in there. So some of it's going to be a matter of the staffing. And the other part is in terms of the mission, of giving them the charge of what they're going to be involved with. I mean, you'll see as we announce in the next day or so our full cabinet, you'll see the person that we recruited to be the Secretary of Commerce is someone who's coming in fully with the understanding and really in large part with the attraction to this new Economic Development Corporation of being a part of this transformation, and not only for this person to be in that position, but to help bring in a team that's going to help make the changes we need to get Wisconsin working again.
Do you think there needs to be a house cleaning at the Department of Commerce?
I don't know about house cleaning. I mean, in the sense that I think there's good people there, but I think there's no doubt there will be some changes.
How much of this is just changing the title changes people's perception of it?
I think it's all the above. I think it's a new position, a new focus, combined with some added flexibility, combined with some new staffing potentially, not across the board, but in some key positions. All of that combined with a mindset overall, not just in Commerce, but in state government, that we're going to be much more aggressive in making it easier to do business in the state. You change the business climate, all those things together send a clear and aggressive message.
The state basically phased out its old public-private partnership, partly because of lack of interest
Yeah.
in the private sector, and they just didn't think it was working. Why would this be any different?
I think, again, the difference is Forward Wisconsin wasn't empowered in the same way that this new Economic Development Corporation will be, because again, you still had a separate Department of Commerce. This puts it all in the one spot, one place. It's all done together, and we plan to have 12 members, 11 other members besides me, who are actively engaged, who bring economic interest from all across the state, from a variety of interest and a variety of size businesses, but who are going to be aggressive in helping us make sure that this new corporation is really aggressive about creating jobs.
Good time for one or two more quick ones. Have you studied other states, Scott, where this has worked?
Yeah.
The model?
Yeah, I mean, for example, the closest thing to this is Indiana. They've had some success. Now, some have pointed out, concerns about disclosure and numbers and that. I think even that the question of whether it was 100 or 60,000, to me, I look at even a 60 and say that was a success. I'd take that right off the bat. We want to make sure early on that both from an ethics and an open government standpoint, but overall in terms of accountability, that we have full disclosure and accountability in our agency. So we've made, we've made some modifications, but I think you see success there. I think you see success with similar models elsewhere, but that's probably the closest out there. And it's something that, again, we didn't just come up with on our own. It's very similar to what this Be Bold Wisconsin plan proposed, and you've had a group who've spent quite some time really researching not only Indiana but other states across the country. We're taking this, and as I said to them, we're just being a little bit bolder than what they even were proposing.
Are you going to change the name of the building? Have you talked to Tommy about that?
Actually, the comparisons that I think Walters wrote something on Sunday, I like being compared. If I got two governors that people are going to compare me to, if it's Tommy Thompson when it comes to helping create jobs and Chris Christie when it comes to balancing budgets, those are two guys I don't mind being compared to.
Very good.
Good, thanks guys.